Unless you've been living underneath a rock, you would know the Quest 3 has been out for about a month or two. And before I even think about making a review video for this headset, I wanted to jump into my all-time favorite VR game. You may have heard of it, it's called Into the Radius. I want to see just how big of a difference the Quest 3 really makes. The Quest 3 is one of the most technologically advanced VR headsets on the market right now, with a display that has 25% more pixels per inch compared to the Quest 2, which means that in theory, Into the Radius should look way better on the Quest 3. Right? Well, to answer that question, let's do a comparison between how the Quest native version of Into the Radius looks on both the Quest 2 and Quest 3 headsets. Here's a side-by-side of the Quest 2 and Quest 3 native version of Into the Radius, and it is pretty clear that the lighting, shadows, textures, and amount of foliage that can be rendered within your view has all been significantly improved on the Quest 3. But you're probably thinking right now that the Quest 3 still looks blurry, even compared to the Quest 2. And thankfully, that's not actually true, because these recordings don't paint an accurate picture of how these headsets look while you're wearing them. For some reason, when you record on the Quest 2 natively, your recording comes out looking even better than the actual game. And in the case of the Quest 3, the recording doesn't do justice to how crisp and smooth the game really looks. So, I took my camera and snapped a couple pictures. First, here's how the Quest 2 more accurately looks while you're wearing the headset. And what jumps out at me is the ground texture is a low, blurry resolution, the shadows look super soft, and there isn't much going on in terms of foliage or ground assets like rocks or branches. And here is the picture I took of the Quest 3 headset, which honestly surprised the hell out of me. Not only does the actual image look way sharper, the shadows are extremely dark, as they should be. The ground and pretty much all surrounding objects have a much higher texture resolution, and there are even tiny little stones and shrubs scattered along the ground. So when it comes to how good the Quest 2 and 3 native versions of Into the Radius look, the Quest 3 wins that competition by a fucking landslide. But maybe you don't give a shit about how the native version of Into the Radius looks on the Quest 3. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter! Because you are a fellow member of the PCVR master race. So, how does the Quest 2 compare to the Quest 3 when it comes to PCVR graphics? To answer that question, I nearly melted my PC maxing out my graphic settings in Into the Radius. Here is a side-by-side of the Quest 2 and Quest 3 headsets on the PC. Can you tell which is which? Well, good, because I couldn't tell them apart either. Essentially, if you have a powerful PC, you will still get amazing graphics using the Quest 2. But I would be lying if I told you guys that this clip was exactly what the game looked like in the headsets. Because once again, video recordings don't give us a true representation of how graphics look while you're wearing the headset. So, here are another couple of pictures that I took using my camera. First up is the Quest 2. The blurriness is extremely slight, really only occurring along the edges of distant objects. Colors are nice and bright, shadows are dark, there's a lot of foliage and assets everywhere, and the textures are high resolution. Now, here's the Quest 3. Now, it is not an insane graphics jump, but it is definitely still a step up. The image overall looks way clearer, much more sharp when compared to the Quest 2. And that really doesn't surprise me. I think it's safe to say the Quest 3 wins in the PCVR category too. So, at the end of the day, we can say a couple things for certain, and to help illustrate this point, I have included a little graph. As you can see, the Quest 3, although having superior graphics, is also much more expensive than the Quest 2. And the graphics you can achieve in PCVR on the Quest 2 are not that much worse than the Quest 3. So if you are a PCVR player and don't really want to spend the money, an upgrade isn't exactly necessary. However, there is a massive gap in graphics when we look at our green and black points on the graph. These both represent the Quest 3 and Quest 2 native versions of Into the Radius, and as you can see, there's a substantial distance between these 2 points, indicating that the graphics in the native version of Into the Radius are substantially worse on the Quest 2 when compared to the Quest 3. So, an upgrade to the Quest 3 would result in a massive graphical improvement for anybody that is playing on Standalone. Well, I hope this video was able to help you out a little bit. I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you did. It helps me out immensely. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, my friends, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye!